News!
Okay, we'll start with this. The official word on the career of Sandy Ryan, two-weight world champion, who's currently out with child, she's said to be. That was the last official word we heard from her up until this point. Now she's saying, I've been quiet lately on here, just want to address something. I won't be fighting anytime soon. Sorry to the people that want to see me back in the ring. No decision on my boxing will be made until early next year. Now please appreciate my privacy, and please don't believe what you see on social media or people's mouths. If it's not come from my mouth, then it's bullshit. Thank you for the love and support. The WBC champion. Except that Sandy Ryan is no longer WBC champion. She's been labeled the champion in recess, out on maternity leave, and Katie Taylor versus Flora Pilley will now be for the vacant WBC title along with the others. It's going to be for undisputed, though we all know that Katie, after that fight, she's out of here too. She's going to retire, irrespective of what happens with Flora Pilley. All the titles at 140 pounds are set to go vacant as she enters retirement, and it would seem that Sandy Ryan is contemplating joining her in that retirement, that she's going to sit out for the rest of this year. I don't know if she's yet given birth. I don't know the due date. Did she miscarry? Is she coping with that? Because that's what happened to Dina Thorsland the last time that she was with child. She was set to sit out for a while, and unfortunately, she miscarried. Could that have happened to Sandy Ryan? Because why would Sandy feel the need to address her boxing career now? The last official word was she was out with child. Somewhat unexpected. If Sandy Ryan made the decision to call it a career early next year, she would have retired from the sport a two-weight world champion, having been WBO champion at 147 and WBC champion at 140, albeit very briefly. It would be another one of those retirements where you feel that there was more left to do, not dissimilar from when Senicia Estrada retired from the sport after becoming undisputed. It would feel that way about Sandy, who's a very big girl, statuesque for her weights, a big enough frame that she could have went to 154, she could have went to 160, capped out there. It would feel that way if she decided to retire. We don't yet know if she's going to, but that's how it would feel. So you have to figure that if Sandy Ryan could end up walking away from the sport, and we already know that Katie Taylor's going to, who's in line to become the next WBC champion? Belgium's own Helene Connart is ranked at number 3. Edith Soledad Matisse of Argentina is ranked at number 4. Carla Ramos Zamora of Mexico, she's ranked at number 5. Yanina del Carmen Lascano is ranked at number 6. Next WBC champion could be any one of them. Being honest with you, if Sandy Ryan were to walk away, it would feel like squandered potential, like there was more that she could have done, more fights that she could have had. Maybe it's a bit presumptuous to have expected more from Sandy. For the time being, she's not going to be fighting. She's not going to be boxing in what remains of this calendar year. That much we already knew. I would like to see Matchroom fill that void with someone. Occupy that empty space, those empty spaces. Because Sandy's not the only one leaving a void behind. Maisie Rose Courtenay does not appear to be with Matchroom anymore. She's going to be boxing this weekend on a smaller promotion. I would say that Matchroom needs to replace Sandy Ryan. While she's out, they need to replace Maisie Rose Courtenay. A good number of their female fighters have already migrated to MVP. I would like to see Matchroom fill the void because, truth be told, the big women's boxing boom of the last 10 years was spearheaded by Matchroom. Matchroom, more than anybody, at one point, they had the most female fighters under contract fighting under the promotional banner. And I happen to think they don't get enough credit for that. Some fighters I wouldn't mind seeing Matchroom pick up. Unbeaten Karis Hardingstall in the featherweight division, who up until recently was boxing under the Boxer banner, but she's been out a long time to the point I'm not even sure she's still with them. And what about WBO Ring Magazine super flyweight champion Mizuki Hiruta? Up until recently, she was boxing for Tom Loeffler, who seems to have gone all in with Zuffa to the point he's not doing his own shows anymore. I'm pretty sure that she's a free agent, and I wouldn't mind seeing Matchroom pick her up. And what about the newly minted WBC atomweight champion of Mexico, Camila Zamorano? Very young fighter, a young champion whose career is ahead of her.
I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Sandy Ryan's absence leaves a void to fill, but that's not even the only vacancy over there at Matchroom.
Just in keeping with the theme of all things Matchroom, Boots Ennis doesn't question the fighting spirit of Xander Zayas. A little more time has elapsed since Boots Ennis became unified super welterweight champion by stopping Xander Zayas, and now he's had plenty of time to watch back on the fight and reflect. Boots talks about what took place in the ring, those who question Zayas' heart, and more.
Some people are branding Xander Zayas a quitter.
Boots on fighting Zayas as if he wanted to vindicate himself going into this fight. I already had it set in stone. I'm going to take these belts from the champion, and that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I could have sat back, boxed, and not get hit, made it look super easy, but I'm going to show the world why I'm the best in the world. Show there's levels to the game. That's how you take belts from a champion. On whether he was surprised Zayas fought back so valiantly, we was prepared for whatever he do, whether he was going to box and move or whether he was going to come forward, and we had several different styles in camp for that. We even had southpaws in camp in case he switched to southpaw. We was ready for everything. On the much discussed third round, and how badly he was hurt if at all, that third round, I watched it like 3 times, and just me being on some lazy stuff. And you can't do that. You can't be on lazy type of time. But I see what people are saying. It looked crazy, but if you sit there and watch it, I wasn't hurt. When you get hurt, you're not about to sit there and bang it out and brawl. People are going to move. They're going to slide off the ropes.
That's not true. Seasoned boxing fan would have seen many fighters over the years get hurt and still decide to sell out, trade punches.
We've seen it.
That not every guy who gets hurt goes straight into survival mode. Some others decide to fight back more ferociously because they know they're hurt and they need to get the guy off of them.
Boots said, I wasn't on no retreat. I was in the pocket right there with him. I was trying to catch him in between the shots. I thought I had a little bit more space than I actually did. He just snuck a right hand in there. It was a clean, nice little right hand too.
On why he gets lazy defensively in spots, Boots said, just getting lazy in moments where it's too easy and you can't do that. When it gets too easy, you've got to pick it up, and I'm glad the fight went how it did. That's nothing but a learning experience for me.
On those who accuse Xander Zayas of quitting, I don't think he quit. Typically, as you see, when I dropped him, I looked at my corner to get instructions. That's what people do. They look to the corner to get instructions, and maybe he was looking to the corner to try to get some instructions, or whether they were trying to tell him anything. So I don't think he quit. I think he was probably actually going to get up, to be honest. I think he would have got up if the corner didn't stop it. I think it would have been over that round, but I don't think he quit.
It's another little tidbit that's going above people's heads that Xander Zayas' corner stopped the fight. That at the same time the ref is waving Xander Zayas off, his corner was waving the fight off.
On Virgil Ortiz calling him out after the Zayas win but never being available to fight, I went all the way down there, me and Eddie and my brother. Went all the way down to Ortiz's last fight by ourselves to let them know we want the fight. They didn't want to allow us in the ring. They didn't want us to sit where we were sitting at. They were giving us a hard time. That goes to show they don't want the fight, for real, for real. Then, when he did want it, and we did get in the ring, and they acted like they wanted it, we got out of the ring, and we hear them doing an interview, talking about Errol Spence's dream fight.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that Virgil said that, and the media let him get away with it.
Like, what? It doesn't make sense. Let me have done something like that. Everybody would have been looking crazy if I would have fought and then said, yeah, Danny Garcia is my dream fight.
That's the equivalent of what Virgil Ortiz did, and for whatever reason, the media didn't castigate him for it, in spite of Errol Spence Jr. having been out for something like 3 years, coming off a devastating loss. They let anybody from Virgil to Sebastian Fundora target a quasi-retired fighter for a fight, without challenging it. Let me have did something like that. Everybody would have been going crazy if I would have fought and then said, yeah, Danny Garcia is my dream fight. Everybody would be going crazy.
You've got all this stuff coming out now about what happened to Errol Spence Jr. in camp ahead of the Terrence Crawford fight, to the point people are actively looking for excuses to make for Errol. The same Errol that Virgil wanted to fight.
Make it make sense.
If what you're saying is that the Errol Spence Jr. that Terrence Crawford fought was a damaged goods fighter,
why are you guys okay with Virgil Ortiz calling him out? Back over to Jaron Boots Ennis, Xander Zayas, and Xander Zayas allegedly quitting.
because that's what some people think he did, even if Jaron Ennis doesn't agree with them. That has to be fixed, says Roy Jones Jr. Xander Zayas could benefit from a sports psychologist.
Roy Jones Jr. chats with Andre Ward and talks about how he views Xander Zayas following a stoppage loss to Boots, reasoning that Zayas can come back as a world champion once he does some mental healing with the help of a professional. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. He needs to see a sports psychologist first, Jones said of Zayas coming back. If he's smart, he goes to see a psychologist, gets his mind back right. I'm just being honest with you, because you got to turn back on your brain. See, this is what people don't understand about prize fighting, and this is where it's changed so much. In a prize fight, in your mind, if you're going to be a real prize fighter, you've got to be willing to kill or die. You've got to have a team that understands how to save you from yourself. He's got to go back to a sports psychologist first to put that kill or be killed mentality back in his mind, because once that's been broken, that has to be fixed. A lot of time when people get broken, they don't go back and fix their mentality. It gets fixed psychologically. He can come back and be a world champion again because he has the tools. He has the skills. He's got all the goods. He's just got to go get that part where he got broken, which is what some people call quitting. He's got to go get that fixed psychologically.
You can see what Roy Jones Jr. means. In a sport where so much of what has to happen and so much of what you have to do comes from you voluntarily, you wanting to be there.
It's not a profession where you can just punch in a clock and go through the motions and half-ass it. Part of what holds up a fighter through the grueling process of becoming a world-class boxer is believing in themselves and believing they are an elite-level fighter, so that if for any reason they stop believing that, they stop being that.
It's a slippery slope.
I think the saving grace for Xander, in spite of being beaten into submission by Boots, is that he is very young.
Seems a very level-headed fighter.
Not self-centered and not egotistical. I would go as far as saying that Xander Zayas and his team knew losing was a distinct possibility, and they were prepared to deal with that.
I would go as far as saying that because Xander's not an egomaniac, dealing with the loss is a bit easier, because it's those fighters that drink their own Kool-Aid.
Those are the ones that take it the hardest, the ones who believed in their own hype, where Xander, he seems very much a realist and a grounded individual that I think he's gonna be okay. Two-time heavyweight champion.
That could happen with Xander. I could totally see him becoming a world champion in the middleweight division. I think he's gonna be all right.
Just in keeping with the theme of news happening at or around these weights, yet another fighter who's on the bounce, Errol Spence Jr.'s stablemate, Brian Norman. Errol is sharp and ready for Tim Tszyu. Errol Spence, a former three-belt welterweight champion, hasn't fought since suffering a lopsided loss to Terrence Crawford for the welterweight undisputed crown 3 years ago in July of 2023. Spence versus Tszyu is supposed to take place at a catchweight of 158 pounds to headline, a PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view event that has since been also picked up by DAZN. To prepare for the occasion, the former Olympian is now training with Ronnie Shields for the first time in Houston.
The former WBO welterweight champion Brian Norman also linked up with Shields recently, and the highly regarded coach guided the 25-year-old Georgia native to a second-round knockout against Josh Wagner last month. Norman believes Shields can give the 36-year-old Spence a much-needed boost to revive his career after the loss, just like he did for Norman. After he had lost to Heaven Daney in November, all accounts indicate the former unified belt holder is having a solid time in the gym during his comeback.
Ronnie Shields is the magic man and has a great mindset, Norman told The Ring. He lets you go to work. He cleaned up some of my small things that needed to get tightened up a little bit. It was a great experience, and I can understand why he's a great coach. I haven't been able to spar against Spence. I wish I could. Errol was one of my favorite fighters when I was growing up. The boy is looking good, sharp. I know he's definitely ready for Tszyu. I think we are going to see something better than vintage Spence. You're going to see the new and improved. He doesn't have to go out there and be the exact same fighter. You get older. You get wiser. You don't have to be the same person you were 10 years ago. We're about to see that with Errol Spence.
Now, anecdotally, veteran fighter Brian Mendoza said something similar about Spence in camp as he's been helping him prepare, and he's saying that Spence is looking good, he's looking sharp. Though, what do you expect a sparring partner to say?
In that situation, what do you expect Brian Norman to say?
That Errol isn't what he used to be and he looks every day of 36 years old?
Now training with Ronnie Shields, who has trained the likes of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Pernell Whitaker, Vernon Forrest, Arturo Gatti, and many others. Nowadays, Shields guides former world champions Spence Norman, Jermall Charlo, and upstarts Joshua Edwards, Vito Milnicki, and Andreas Katsurakis. Shields certainly can't alleviate any eroded skills and ring rust for Spence against the former junior middleweight champion Tszyu, who's 5-3 since around the time Spence last fought. But Norman said training alongside top peers can be a separating factor for Spence, much like it was for himself. It helps you out with quantum leaps in your game, physically and mentally, Norman said. Iron sharpens iron, and you are forever learning. That's why the game is forever evolving.
Now, I myself have never had a high opinion of Ronnie Shields as a trainer, in spite of the diverse catalog of fighters that he's worked with over the years, many of which are very familiar names. None of them were fighters that Ronnie Shields built from the ground up.
So I don't think of him as being the same caliber of trainer as an Angelo Dundee or a Jack Blackburn,
a Customato, or a Ray Arcel. For more postmodern examples, I don't really think of him as being the same caliber of trainer as a Robert Garcia, a Freddie Roach.
I don't think of him as being as solid a trainer as a Manny Robles, mostly because I never saw a fighter go to Ronnie Shields and suddenly become better, that much better, as a result of it. So I'm skeptical. This could be the last time that we see him, so that even if he goes to Australia and beats Tszyu, there's no guarantee that he sticks around afterwards.
At 36 years old, 3 years removed from the sport, I don't get the impression that Errol is back to fight for anybody's alphabet titles.
The estimated pot for his upcoming fight with Tszyu is in the neighborhood of about $15 million, to where if you split it down the middle,
well, that explains why he's back.
$15 million divided by 2 breaks down to $7 million apiece for the combatants, which would explain why Errol's willing to fight Tim, and in his neck of the woods. But there are not a lot of other fights like that left for Errol Spence Jr.
This could be the last one.